So in this training today, I want to share with you why setting a 10x goal is actually going to make your life easier. Now, in the scorecard, which is attached to this podcast, there are statements. And one of the common statements that I see people agree with is that I believe that setting a 10x goal is going to make my life more stressful. What I want to share with you in this sharing is that setting a 10x goal is actually going to make your life easier. And what I want to do first and foremost is look at the 5 mindsets which make people believe that going 10x in their work or their life will be more stressful. And once you spot these things, you'll be able to say, if I can shift this mindset, then I will see it as actually reducing the amount of work I have to do, the amount of bandwidth that my job or my work or my goal has. And when you actually come to the real truth about going and creating a massive inflection point, a massive jump in your success, when you come to the truth that that's going to make your life easier, it will make it way, way more attractive to pursue. Because sometimes, especially when we're setting goals and we're looking to improve ourselves, if we see that thing as making our life more stressful, there's going to be a natural break or a handbrake on the process. Now, I saw this in body transformation where people believe that eating healthily, going to bed on time, training every single day, on top of what they're already trying to do, I used to see, they used to really struggle to comprehend how they could fit all the things in. And then on the other side of that, when someone started going to bed early, eating well, training every single day, they were more effective in their work, so they weren't taking as much time. It was almost like a before and after realization for so many people. They would be like, oh my gosh, I never realized how hard I was making my life by behaving in that fashion. And it's exactly the same in business. Like when we're an operator who is stuck in our business and we are super busy, we're not delegating, we're not empowering people to take tasks off our plate. When we're stuck in that place, it's really, really hard to see how we can get out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share with you just some of the mindsets that are going to help you identify why you're creating a big jump as more stressful. So the first mindset that is so important to recognize in yourself is, how do you create your life? Like a farmer or like a wizard? Now, the distinction between the two, a farmer prides themselves on the hard work, the graft, the hustle, the independence, the sweat, and the self-righteous, I'm going to do this. The farmer stands there and steps and plows the field, looks up at the midday sun, sweating away, and thinks to themselves, nobody's working as hard as me. Aren't I amazing? Aren't I putting in the graft? And this was me. Like, I can definitely see this was me, and I could see it in so many of my clients, and I can see it in so many of my clients recently, is that they are so attached to giving their time to things. Now, this is something I used to do in my first business. I would attach so much of my time to everything, and because I had to be involved in all of the processes, all the systems, all of the client contact, it was so important that I was working hard. Now, this is how many people start their business. It's how many people go into their business and they are so burnt out because of this mindset. And if you think about this, even in the expression, someone asks, how are you doing? You say, oh, busy, busy. Because we use being busy as a mantle for pride and success. Yeah, I'm busy, I'm working hard. And that's what we've either been modeled by our parents. That's what society rewards hustle. And it's almost self-indulgent, or it's almost selfish to say, hey, do you know what? I'm actually not going to be like that anymore. I'm going to pride myself on having space, having time, focusing on results, being leveraged. And that is the wizard mindset. So if you think about the two characters, that the farmer goes out, takes massive steps, plows hard, gets the burn, feels self-righteous, looks at the midday sun, sweating away. I'm using all my time today plowing this field. The wizard walks out of their front door, focuses on swishing a wand, one inch one way, 1 inch the other, and then the field transforms. Well, that's kind of how we have to develop when we go from operator to owner. We need to start looking at how little we can do to get the most out of our team, our resources, our business, all those things. And then what we get back in return is time. Now, here's the thing, that a farmer can have a great life. This is what I notice about people who are farmers, though. They have very little in surplus. They either don't have that much surplus profit, they don't have surplus time, they definitely don't have surplus energy. Now, if you're the person who goes home at the end of the day and you're so tired that you haven't got the energy to connect with your kids, the energy to connect with your partner, and the energy to do the things that maybe you love, like your hobbies, that is a sure sign that you're creating your life like a farmer. And you will always see going 10x as more stressful in that frame. Whereas when you make that commitment to start creating your life like a wizard, where you look at leverage, you look at potency of actions, you look at getting rid of 80% of the things that are going to slow you down, stop you, and focus on the 20% of things that really move the needle, that is when your life will really change. So what we want to do is we want to start looking at making that commitment. I'm going to start creating my life like a wizard. And that is where we just slow down. In the space of coaching, this is what we do. And we look at, well, actually, do you know what? If I stop doing that, or if I empowered someone else to do that, that's going to make the biggest difference. So we look at levers. What levers can we pull in your work or your life to really make the difference? I'll just give you a short example of that. Some people will try and manage their weight, but with exercise. So, for example, where I live in North Wales is something called the Great Orme, and people would go and walk around the Great Orme. It would take them maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours to walk around the Great Orme. I could do that by just removing the yellows from my eggs. The same amount of calories would be removed with both of those actions. One's a much more effective lever than the other. So, just a kind of an example of that. The second reason you'll see 10x is being stressful is the paradigm you've built up is that if it is to be, then it's up to me. And you haven't developed what's called a systems mindset, where instead of managing and leading and developing your business to run on autopilot as a self-managing company, you're doing all of the heavy lifting. You're the person that pulls all the strings, moves all the cogs, does all the legwork. And there is a level of control element. You might do that because you want to be in control, but you're being totally inefficient. That's the reality. You should not be doing those things because they can be automated by AI, by systems and processes, with tech, or with other people doing that for you. So you're left with space and time to work on the business. And this is something that I was, so many of my clients really own this mindset. If it is to be, then it's up to me. And it's actually the independence mindset. And if you look at what Stephen Covey talked about in this idea of this ladder of, dependence, codependence, independence, and then there's interdependence, which is the top of the ladder is interdependence. And as a leader, that's what you're trying to cultivate. Interdependence is that you are able to delegate and share and work together within a team construct, so you're way more effective. And my old business partner used to say to me all the time, Ben, you're doing a $6 task. And that is where I really had to start letting go of those tasks and started to build up a team around me of people that can help me achieve my goals. So here's the thing, right? And this is something that you might be noticing, especially if you run an online business like I do. I was working with a client who's also building an online business. And what would happen, he was working in an organization where if the sales went up, he would be doing all of the onboarding one-to-one. And it meant that when the sales grew, when there was more sales, there was more onboarding. So he would suddenly get very, very busy. So it would go from high sales months to really low sales months because he would be fulfilling all of the onboarding. I was like, what's going on? Like, you seem to have month one, like really good, like month 2 and 3, it seems to be non-existent. And he was like, yeah, I'm actually just fulfilling all of the onboarding and the client fulfillment and all the things that I need to do to get clients up to speed. And I said, well, hang on a second. It looks like this process is broken because there's so much that you're doing fulfilling as soon as you're selling. So what we did is we transformed the onboarding experience from one-to-one to a process where they watched a load of videos and then attended a group training. This dramatically shifted how effective his onboarding was. So instead of doing 7-8 hours a week or 7-8 hours every 2 weeks, he was doing 1 hour a week. He was way more effective. And what it sometimes means is it's looking at the way that you're doing things and totally transforming them. And yeah, it's a really important part. And I think once you start looking at it like that, you'll see like that for him was going 10x because he was able to 10x his sales then. So when he started doing those group consultations and onboardings, because it was a group program, he was then able to 10x his sales because there was no dread that when he made loads of sales that he was going to get super busy and wouldn't be able to see his family and was be spending all of his time fulfilling the promises that he'd made. So it's really important. So the third mindset is you might be seeing the stress in the big numbers and more cash, more steps, more of everything. And the breaks that you're putting on going 10x is, do you know what? I can't deal. Like I'm already struggling to deal with 30 clients. How on earth am I going to deal with 300? And here's the thing. I definitely experienced that in my fitness business. I had 30 people in the boot camp and I remember saying, okay, my goal's 300. And the thing that was really important for me to grow to that level was simplicity. Like complexity doesn't scale, simplicity does. Now, here's the thing. It's like if I was sitting with each of those 30 people one-to-one, going through exactly like, nurturing them through a very, very clear one-to-one process, it's going to take a lot of my time. So what I did is I created a process, like a recipe. If you follow this recipe and I help you learn this recipe, you will get weight loss. That was kind of what I did in my transformation business. And because it was so simple, it was eat more protein, drink water, start learning about controlling your calories, like learn about how many calories are in different things by tracking your calories. Then it was like, make sure that you're eating fruits and vegetables. Then it was also like all those things. And I layered them step by step over 6 weeks. And what happened is that it became so simple, more people could go through that and lead themselves through it with a very, very small amount of support. Whereas my previous way of doing things, it was very bespoke. It was very tailored. And actually, if I really am honest, it wasn't as efficient, effective, or didn't get as good results. So having something really simple like a recipe for weight loss was really, really, really good for scaling, because when 60 people signed up in 1 month, which they did, it was easy to get these people to get results. And so that's what you've got to look at, is that one of the reasons that you might be putting the brakes on when it comes to going 10x in your business is there's so much complexity already. Now, 10x is going to solve that because it's what it's going to do. It's going to force you to make things really, really simple. And when they're simple, that's when they scale. I remember a buddy of mine was consulting in a business. And one of the things that he went in, the business was a really, really great business. It was doing great profits, but the scaling wasn't happening. They weren't able to go into a second location because the team was so chaotic. And all they did was put in a drum beat where, when was the management meetings? When were the team meetings? When did the managers meet with the team? What was the cash flow meetings? When did they have the financial meetings? And after all of learning about the business for multiple weeks, that's the only thing that they did. And this made a massive difference to the business. So when, as a consultant and as a business owner, what you're looking for when you want to scale, when you want to grow, when you want to go 10x is, how can I make this simple? Same in any arena of your life. It has to be simple. So this is the sentence stems I'd actually use for going 10x and making yourself see it as simple is like 3 ways going 10x would make my life more simple are to go 10x, X would have to be simpler. So to go 10x, my client onboarding system would have to be simpler. To go 10x, my sales system would have to be simpler. To go 10x, my offer would have to be simpler. Like that's something I am really, really passionate about. When your offer is really clear and really simple, you will scale. It's like, that's the first thing to get right. And then the final one is, one way I could make my life or business simpler today would be to, and something that we did Poppy and I did, a real simple thing for us to do was to get a cleaner. It sounds like sometimes it doesn't need to be a business thing. It can be a lifestyle thing. Getting a cleaner on the daily in Dubai was a game changer for us, because it made our life 10 times simpler, because we weren't trying to task manage outside of the business activities that we were doing. So major shift for us. Mindset 4 that might be stopping you from going 10x and seeing it as stressful is that you think that everything has to go 10x at once. You have to make everything grow at once. And now, this is the problem we often find with people, that they try and solve problem number 5 when they haven't solved problem number 1. And a surefire way to overwhelm yourself is to think that everything needs to change at once. Now, here's what I often see in a business. When somebody gets their offer right, they get 10x the sales, because it's easy to sell a clear offer. When they get the sales right and they've got 10 times the customer coming in, they then have to work on their customer journey and the fulfillment. That has to get 10x better. And then when those two things are better, they'll have like maybe long-term fulfillment and long-term upsell. That has to be worked on. It doesn't need to be worked on all at the same time, especially if you're a solopreneur or you've got a small team. It's making sure that you're working on the right things first. Now, this was something that I really learned when my business, my fitness business, 10x'd the leads and the sales that we got in the space of a couple of months. What happened was that because the amount of people coming into the business, way more than tripled, it was right, we need to work on our fulfillment process very, very quickly. And what's great about this, it wasn't stressful, because it had to be done, and it had to be done by the following week. So instead of a someday goal, it became, I need to get this sorted by next Friday for when I have 20 people starting this program. And that was, albeit urgent, albeit there was a stressor, it was actually really helpful, because it solved the problem forever. It's still the same process now, 7 years on. It was solved because there was urgency and there was desire to make it happen. So sometimes we've got to make sure that two things are happening. It doesn't have to happen all at once. And actually, the pressure of the extra success, the extra momentum, will actually force you to do things that you've often been putting off in the past. And then here's the final one, is that the reason you see 10x as more stressful is because you're thinking that your current ways of doing things won't work if you were to go 10x. And like, here's the thing, is like, when I was doing one-to-one consultations in the fitness space, it worked. Sitting down one-to-one with someone absolutely worked. We had a great relationship building session. I got to know people. There was lots of value. People understood me. I got to know them. It was like really intimate. However, for me to bring in 60 people in 1 month, that would have been quite a substantial amount of time for me as a business owner. So what happens when you make that decision to create a big shift is that some things that even are working now will have to go. We went from doing one-to-one consultations to 1 to 6, 1 to many, sometimes 1 to 10. And that worked better. Even though I was so proud of the model for fitness and wellness and body transformation consultations I created one-to-one, I had to let go of that and test something new very quickly. And albeit it was a very, very big change, it worked way better. So think about this. This can be challenging. It does need a leadership mindset where you're willing to let go of some things that are proving to be working. And it does kind of involve what I call the testing versus the trusting mindset. You test, and eventually you trust. And often entrepreneurs get stuck in this. They're like, I need to trust that it works before I'll test it. And it's kind of the reverse on this. We want to test and test and test and test. So when you're trying new things to go 10x, there is going to be a lot of testing. And that's a big a big shift for you as a leader when you start to accept that there's going to be new ways of doing things, that the old things or the current ways of doing things, albeit that they work, they might become obsolete. That's the one. So they're the 5 mindsets that will make you see 10x as being super stressful. And this contributes to vision. Because if you see 10x as being stressful, it's very likely that you won't even make the commitment to even think about it. So here's what I would love you to do next. There's a scorecard that's in the comments on this micro training, this podcast, this video. Go and take it. It takes 2 minutes. It's a load of statements about going 10x, about vision, about obstacles, about transformation, about how to implement and how to get the right support. And at the end, it will give you a score for each arena. And I can guarantee there's one of these areas that you are substantially doing really well in, like substantially performing in. And there is likely one area that's going to be holding you back. And from watching people go 10x, from making, massive jumps in their career, in their body transformations, in their life, I've noticed that when people have a rounded level of all of these 5 things, that's when they truly perform. So head on over to the comments, take it, and you'll get a free report after that. And if you reply to the email with a report, I'll actually even shoot you a personalized video where I share exactly where I would put my attention if I was you, having taken the scorecard and knowing what little I know about you already. And that can make a massive difference in your personal and professional results. Thank you for watching the video, and we'll see you on the next training.